Welcome to the Can You Even podcast, a space where real life stories prove that no matter what life throws your way, you can. I'm your host, Candisse McCormick, and as someone living with spinal muscular atrophy, I've faced my own share of challenges, but I've learned that with the right mindset, anything is possible. On this podcast, I have the privilege of sharing stories from incredible people who have faced life's twists and turns, overcome challenges, and found their own version of you can. These conversations are all about finding strength, hope, and purpose, even in the hardest moments. So get comfy, turn up the volume, and get ready, because these stories might just shift your perspective in a way you never saw coming. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Can You Even podcast. I'm so excited about our next episode with Alex Dunn. I am going to toss it right over to you to introduce yourself and let everybody know who you are, and then we're going to dive right into the conversation.
So hi, thank you so much, Candisse, for having me. It's great to see you again. It's been a while.
Yes.
Last time we met in person, I think, at one of your amazing events in High River. So thank you for having me on today.
Yeah.
So my name's Alex Dunn. I am a trauma-informed counsellor of nearly 20 years. I'm a life coach, and also I'm an equine facilitator. So sitting in a counselling space, I've got a counselling space of health and healing, is incredible, and it can be life-changing for some people. But for other people, it's a struggle for them sitting in a room. So I am out in nature with horses. Amazing. I use the woods, the forest, the park in High River, horses. And I'll talk more about horses later and that work. So what else do I do? I'm also a reflexologist of 25 years. Wow. So I'm registered. So I use advanced techniques. So that's pretty cool. And I do Indian head massage as well. So yeah.
You're a lady of many talents for sure.
Which is why I'm called Alexandra Dunn Wellness after my name. That's my business name, because it encompasses everything I do.
Absolutely. And I think that's actually a very important message. When your wellness is more than just about what you're putting into your body. I think lots of people think it's like food and exercise, but it can be so much more than that. So
much more. You got to do the work here, and also the therapy. It's lots of talking, right? You need to get it out, but also you need to get it out of your body.
Yeah,
because you hold things in your body.
Absolutely. I think that's a perfect segue. So here on our podcast, we talk with people and help them share their stories of hard times that they've experienced. Because what I think is important is talking about it. I think often when we're going through a hard time, there is so many emotions that we feel maybe ashamed or embarrassed, or we're not quite sure how we feel. And so then we don't talk about these things, and it builds up inside of us and can come out in so many different ways. And so here on my podcast, I want to talk with people and share their stories, because you just never know who's listening. And one person might hear this and it might really change their life or make them feel like they're not alone. So we want to dive into your story. You said that you had to overcome a traumatic workplace incident that forever changed you. This really piqued my interest, because one thing I am noticing as I get guests on my podcast, there's a lot of workplace stuff happening for people, whether it's burnout or traumatic incidences. And I think reason we don't talk about it is because it's then work related, and we live in a difficult economy and we're worried about losing jobs and things like that. But I think it's very powerful to hear how people have had these incidences but overcome them and found an even better life. So if you don't mind, let's dive into that story, if you don't mind sharing it with us.
So yeah, thank you. And what you're saying is so important. You don't know what people are going through.
No.
You see people going about their day-to-day lives, and you see a smile, you see them just doing the shopping, doing this, doing that, but you don't know what's going on. Unless sort of they've broken their leg or something like that and something's visible, you don't know what's going on. You don't know their story. No. So yeah.
It's interesting, because I have done some inner self-work on myself, and I'm I didn't realize how much I used the words "I'm fine" when people were like, "How are you?" "I'm fine." And I was like, I was not fine. I was going through some stuff, but you almost don't share it because you don't want I don't know. For me, I was like, I don't want people to feel bad for me. I'll work through it
Mhm.
myself. But
Mhm.
then once I did start talking about it, I felt better in just
Yeah.
ways I didn't expect. And so, yeah. So, I do, again, yes, very important to talk about it, eliminate the shame and embarrassment, because you just never know that when you talk about it, who you will help. So, what was your workplace incident that you experienced?
So yeah, some years ago, I was in a role working with this wonderful family, and this is the traumatic. It's slightly different. This is the traumatic incident, but the trauma happened after,
Okay.
which is where the PTS came about. So it didn't
Okay.
come about so much from the traumatic incident. So basically, my life was threatened quite severely. So I ended up with physical injuries, and it's all fragmented. Like I've lost 12 minutes of that incident, so it's all slightly fragmented. But I do know, because the dispatch were on the phone and everything, I do know it lasted 26 minutes, but I've lost like 12 minutes of that. And there were police and ambulance and everybody there, and it was something.
Yeah.
So that one evening completely changed me, actually,
Yeah.
and how I saw the world,
Yeah.
completely. And my employer at the time, it wasn't talked about. It wasn't talked about. So then I just went into the shame and, oh, what did I do wrong? It's all my fault. So, but I internalized that. So that is because I couldn't talk about it. Literally, I couldn't talk about it. Then that's where the actual trauma came into place.
Mm.
Yeah. Because
Was the
what happened
reason,
to me, sorry?
I was gonna say, was the reason you couldn't talk about it was for like confidentiality reasons, or there was just nobody there to talk to?
No, there are lots of people there. It's
Okay.
a trauma-informed workplace,
Yep.
actually. But it just, it just didn't,
Mm.
yeah, didn't
Mm.
happen. Yeah. So long and the short of it, I was kind of functioning as best as I could.
Uh-huh.
But I was in a complete trauma state. So I was literally surviving through the day. So I got up in the morning. Oh, I survived the night. Then I drove to work. I drove to, do visits and whatever I had to do about the day. And every single time I stopped the car, oh, I survived. I did that. I got through it. So I was in literally survival. My cortisol, my adrenaline, I was totally in the amygdala part of the
Yeah.
brain. So, and when you're in the amygdala part of the brain, you're not really able to access the prefrontal cortex. Like Dan
Okay.
explains it brilliantly with a hand model of the brain. Don't know if you know that, but he explains
No.
it brilliantly.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So you're in the amygdala part of the brain, which is the fight flight, like the watchdog. It's on alert the whole time. And
Right.
the prefrontal cortex, it's literally as if it's offline. And the prefrontal cortex is your executive functioning, your decision making, your wise mind, your rational thinking, all of
Right.
that. It's really, really hard to access that when you're in your amygdala. Because, here,
Yeah.
just a little. So obviously my work declined.
Yep.
So long and the short of it is I lost my job.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. There was a part of me that I was thinking you were just gonna be like, I had this moment and I walked away from the job. But unfortunately, that probably could be the case of many when we don't address the traumatic experience or the feelings that we're having in work. When we do this, bury them down and just don't talk about it, thinking it'll go away. It doesn't go away, and it can
But the
have.
thing is, I wanted to talk about it. I needed to talk about it. I
Yeah.
wanted to talk about it. And because it gave me also some insight into people we used to serve. That when you are in this state of survival, with so many people are,
Right.
and you come in, with all these fresh ideas. What about if you just did this? Literally just did this.
Yeah.
One tiny thing, to even just belly breathing, just before you get up in the morning, just to make your day, to calm everything down. And then it's like, why aren't they doing that? And it gave me some insight, because you literally can't, because you get up and you survive through the day. So one new thing that is offered to them, resources and explaining reasons why, it's just too much, because they're literally getting up and surviving through the day. So it gave me some insight into that, which is, I'd never have had before.
Right.
So every opportunity, I just think, what can I learn from this?
Yeah.
Because I've been a counsellor for many years, and I thought, okay, how can this how can this change my perspective into what I'm doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and
And
that's interesting because I think that from what I know from the few people that are in, like, whether they're therapists or counselors or whatnot, I feel like a lot of them have had a traumatic experience or a difficult time in their life, and that's kind of what led them into being in that therapy field. But it sounds like you didn't have that until after you were already in the field.
But I always knew I wanted to be in this field. My dad was a consultant psychiatrist, and he opened one of the first day hospitals in London, in the UK.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And the day hospital he opened the doors, he opened the windows, he took the bars off the windows. He did play therapy, he did drama therapy, he did art therapy. He was one of the, you know, he was just an incredible man. So I used to go, I remember having memories when I was 4 years old, going to help him and hand out Christmas presents to the outpatients.
Yeah.
So this is in my blood. I've always wanted to do this. So I've always had a slightly different lens because my dad was always an outside the box person.
Okay.
And I'm an outside the box person as well. But it just gave me a different layer. It gave me a different layer.
Absolutely.
Mm.
Yeah. So you end up, your work declines, you end up losing your job.
Mm-hmm.
And then did you take time for yourself? Did you finally get to talk about it?
Yeah. WCB helped pick up the pieces.
Okay.
So I was in, I saw an incredible counselor through LifeMark with WCB. And it was a 2-week program. So I think I might be wrong. I think I saw her 2 days a week or 2 sessions a week. It might be one, I can't remember. Then an OT once as well. So it's pretty intense. And then because of the severity of not being heard, not being allowed, afterwards and all of that, because that went on for about 9 months of this, having to keep it in and still having to try to function. There was a lot of work for her to do. So I was then, it kept being extended from 10 weeks to I think it was just over a year.
Okay.
So it's quite intense.
Yeah. One thing that makes me think of is that 26 minutes, I think you said the incident happened, obviously impacted your life for a lifetime, but also to help you recover and cope and deal with all of it took over a year of your life. Like that's
still things are going on now.
Exactly. And I think that is where I think it's so important for people to talk about it, whatever it is. And I think one of the messages I like to share on here is that we don't ever get to choose what hard experience that we go through, but we do get to choose how we respond or react to it. And I think that in that is where the power of it all comes, is that when you get the ability and you find the right people to talk to and help you work through it all, that is where where you can find the good. I know that sounds maybe a little bit crazy, but even when the bad things happen, there will be a good that comes out of it as long as we're willing to be open to that, to share our feelings and talk about it. So,
sometimes it's really, really hard to see. Sometimes that's hard to see.
Absolutely.
Yeah, talking about it is really, really important. But basically, I was stuck. For 6 minutes. So also getting rid of it from your body.
Yeah.
I couldn't run. I was literally stuck.
Yeah.
So people hold things like that in your body if you're stuck or whatever. So it's like, what does your body need? You need to run. Let's run, but let's run safely to keep you in the present moment so you're not launched back into the trauma. It's like, let's retrain your brain so you can run away from situations, but in a safe place.
Right.
So be sort of mindful. I've done that with some of my clients up with the horses or participants up with the horses that they haven't been able to participate in a session because they're almost vibrating, literally almost vibrating. And the horses can pick up on it and they're galloping around and the horses are usually calm. So it's a whole big thing of grounding with them and doing the 4, 4, and 8 breathing, but they're still vibrating. So how can you be present if your body is vibrating? Okay. So it's so this one particular person, I was saying, what is your body needing right now? And they're like, I don't know. And then after a little while, they said, I need to run. So we ran up the driveway, but I ran next to him back to this person, which was, I really hurt the next day. Not a runner, but it's, you keep, keeping pace. And it's just stay in the present moment. Whilst you're running, feel your feet on the ground, notice the trees around you, notice your breathing, notice your arms, notice your body. So you're staying in the present moment because that helps to rewire your brain into feeling safe. when you're having this adrenaline run through your body. So you know you're not in danger.
Right. And I think like I talk about this lots with my life coach. Is she's like, our brain will do really crazy things that make us think that we're safe. So like prevent it, like will hold us back, because to us that's feeling like it's safe, but you have to retrain it to think that by doing these other actions you're still safe. And it's a very difficult mindset. Like I work on it all the time. I can catch myself going back to being like, I'm just going to stay doing what I'm doing, even though I'm not fully happy in what I'm doing, kind of thing. And so then I'll push myself again. So that's very interesting that you say that. It just is like to like rewire your brain to
absolutely realize. You can rewire your brain. It is hard and it takes repetition, but you can do it. You can do it.
So you said that you then did like about a year of therapy and work on yourself, and then I think it's interesting that you stuck with your field of work after this. So how did you go from the traumatic experience, therapy with yourself, and then still shifting into the same very similar work that you did? I bet you that was difficult, knowing that you were already in that field when the traumatic experience happened. So
because I think it's because it's my passion. It just absolutely love it. It's in my DNA, it's in my blood. But also it wasn't, nothing is to do with that, the person.
Right.
Nothing. It's all to do with the after effects and not being able to be who I needed to be. Because people can have a traumatic incident and not get the PTS from it.
Right.
If they are seen and heard and allowed to get it out of their, the trauma they're holding in their body and talk about it cognitively.
Right.
It doesn't have to. And the reason I say PTS, post-traumatic stress, because I think, from my understanding, it's changed from being called a disorder to an injury. But I'm not sure about either of those, because a disorder is quite a big thing to say.
Yes.
But although when you're going through it and your brain's jumbled and your emotions are jumbled, you can be disordered. Your thoughts are disordered. Your nervous system can be disordered, going to fight and flight, and then it's like confused.
Right.
So I think it's been changed to an injury. But I'm like, well, where's the injury?
Yeah.
Where's the injury? It's in your very, very being. It's in your very core. It's in your self-worth. So it's more of you're adapting. It's more of an adaptation.
Yeah.
To me.
Yeah. That's a very interesting concept, because I agree with you. Like it affects obviously like the injury could be, I guess, to like your brain, but then your brain is how your whole body functions, and it can then have significant impacts on like your health and your organs. Like people I think don't sometimes realize that some of their health conditions are literally just because they haven't worked through something, and it's just having this chain reaction of effects. So that I am glad though that it's been reworded from a disorder. I think that there's also like this weird negative connotation where people are like, I don't want to have a disorder, and so maybe it just makes people feel a little bit easier to accept it, because with PTS, I think you could then, with the right supports and the right tools and the action plan, you can overcome it.
Absolutely. And it doesn't, you don't need to be a psychologist, a psychiatrist, a counselor. You could be a good friend.
Yeah.
And just say, okay, what are you needing now? Do you want to talk about it? Let's go for a walk. Let's go for the intentional walk. Let's get out. Let's shake. Let's, and a few people doing that. You don't need to have, I was calling an ology after your name.
I love that you like get out. I will admit, like for me, so from the time I was little, I used to go to the children's hospital, and part of my clinic day, there was like a psychologist or a counselor that used to be part of my visit. And in the beginning, when I was young, I don't really remember, but then I hit like my pre-teens, like 10, 11, 12. And finally, I just remember saying one day, I don't want to talk to this guy anymore. And they were like really worried, like, well, why? And I said one day I finally said to my mom, well, all he talks about is how I feel about dying. Because my disease was like a diagnosis that was given where I wasn't supposed to see my 5th birthday. But then he just kept going back to that. And I'm like, well, clearly I'm living. Like, I'm now
Yeah,
12. So
not
can we,
about
I don't
living.
know. I guess when that happens, it happens. And so
Yeah.
I think that then developed, yeah, I think that then developed a weird, like, dislike for therapy. Because then I thought I
Mhm.
was like sitting in a room,
Mhm.
talking to a guy about my feelings, wasn't helping anything, I
No.
guess is what my thought was. So I love that you get out and you go for nature walks or get movement in there, or you said you work a lot with horses. Do you want to maybe dive in to a little bit of that? Because I think this is fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Horses, I mean, I discovered horses when I was like 14.
Okay.
Living in London, it was quite hard to find a stable. So my mum,
Yeah.
without a computer, just without Google, I just find that. So I always knew the gentle power of horses. So horses, you can go up to a horse with a smile, and horses can see the smile. But if you're not feeling that inside, if you're feeling all the big heavy feelings and emotions, that's what they pick up on, and then they react and they mirror back to you what you're feeling. So it's quite fascinating. So every session I have is always an invitation. I always invite, let's do some grounding. Yeah, let's ground, because often people are in their head and you forget about your body. So let's do the brain body connection. Let's do some grounding. Let's do some 4, 4, and 8 breathing. Even the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 5 things you can see, 4 things you can hear, 3 things touch, taste. So it brings you back into the present moment. And often that calms people down. But like I said, that other person, it didn't. So we need to do some other things.
Okay.
Just to help calm down a little bit. And horses reflect back. Yeah, and then the session, I never really have plans. I always have a few things in the back of my mind. I usually have a box with me with some chalk to draw on the horses or some stickers or, things like that. But it's not my session. Often people, especially given a situation like I am, or people that come to me, they're in treatment for something else. And it's like, right, you need to talk about this. And
Right.
there's an agenda.
Yes.
So we never have an agenda.
Yes, that's
So
kind of
just
what I
being,
was saying before. Like, I didn't like it. I had to answer the questions he
yeah.
had for me. It didn't open up a free-flowing conversation.
No.
Yeah. Oh, I
And
love that.
yeah. And some people don't even want to be in with the horses. Some people want to observe and just lean on the fence and just be. I've had some people say, I'm just done with talking. I just don't want to use, I'm out of words. Can I just be quiet in the whole session? I said, of course you can. So I said, can I be quiet next to you in that, And they said, absolutely. And sometimes after a little while, half an hour or so, they speak a little bit, but it's not for me it's because this is their session. And then the horses are coming up and giving what's needed. And I had another person who always has to fill the gap, who go all the time. So we were in the field. We always do a safety talk before we go in the horses, no matter how many times they've been, safety around horses and things. We went in the field with the horses and and when we do the grounding, I always stand back so they don't see me because I want them to
Okay.
the horses, so they're not seeing me. He stood after the grounding. This person just stood probably for about 45, 50 minutes, just didn't move. And one horse, an older horse, came and stood right by him the whole time, just standing, holding space. This one right by this person. And afterwards, this person said that was the most empowered, liberating experience they've ever had. And it was silent.
Wow.
It's silent. He says, this person said, I've never had that before.
That's so interesting. I think, like, I wonder if it's, I can relate to the fact of, like, I'm tired of talking about it. Like, I get that. So I'm like, but I think there's always, the words and the thoughts are always in my head. They're always there. And I think, like, maybe just standing in that space, it still got put out. And you felt like you got to be heard, but you didn't have to talk, right? So that's just interesting how impactful that can be. So
yeah, absolutely. And being in the present moment, because so many people that come, us anyway, but so many people that come and see me, they are terrified of the future and stuck in the past. It's like I was, so it was, it's you terrified of what the future holds. But you're stuck in the past. So being in the present moment. But then on the other hand, I've had some people where in the parking lot, their car door isn't even shut for 20 minutes because they're like,
right.
And it's like, when there's an natural pause, I'm like, okay, should we shut your car door? And how about if we walk and see the horses? And maybe let's do some breathing. So they just needed to get it all out. And they hadn't even, got out the car properly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, and I think too, like we live, one of my previous podcast guests, we talked about how like we live in this society where like if you're not busy, you're not doing it right kind of thing. We rush through. And then I think it's interesting because you see a lot of talk about how just simple breathing tactics can calm you, how just being still or grounding yourself can help you. And I think to myself, like, wow, did we really lose all of that? Like we just become from one task to the next task that like, obviously we're breathing, otherwise we don't be dropped dead. But like,
it's
we're
not belly breathing. It's not
we're not doing
breathing.
Useful breathing, calming breathing. And then it just like, I've always been fascinated with this because I think for myself, like I've been in a wheelchair since I got my first power chair when I was 3. And I've become more and more fascinated with it because I jokingly say like I'm probably the least grounded person there is because like I couldn't tell you the last time my feet actually touched the ground. And so I look into all of these different therapies like breathing and meditation and just being still. Like you often will just sit on my deck in the sunshine and be doing nothing and just relaxing because I do feel, and I find if I pay attention, it's probably a day where I'm feeling more anxious or worried or stressed or whatever. And so
notice that with no judgment.
Yeah.
Notice that. Just, I'm feeling anxious today because of so you don't own that anxiety. Yeah, okay, so I'm feeling slightly anxious today because of A, B, and C is happening. And I'm feeling anxious. It's in my gut. I'm feeling it's in my gut. And then give that gut some love and kindness and just no judgment.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think it's, again, these are like simple things that you can learn. You can Google them. You can watch them on YouTube. People can reach out to you if I like really guided stuff. I love to have people like tell me to take the breath. I need that because that's how probably busy my brain is. And so maybe let's chat a little bit about how, like what services, I know we touched a bit, like what do you offer? What do those services look like? And how could people reach out to connect with you and work with you?
So like I said, I'm a counsellor, trauma-informed counsellor and a coach. Because counselling, very coarsely put. So there might be some people that, but counselling is more past to now. And like I said, very coarse. And coaching is more now to goals you want to set kind of thing. So I've got
I love that.
There might be some people like, oh, that's terrible described.
No,
very simply described. Then I also do reflexology because, like I said, people hold things in their body. So I do extended sessions. Some people want to do half an hour, 45 minutes of counselling, coaching, and then the rest of the session. So it's an hour and a half session, 2 hours of reflexology. So they're talking, and then I help to reset the nervous system through the feet. So,
Interesting.
Yeah. Okay. And Indian head massage is just a seated massage, and it's just relaxing. Yeah. So I'm just trained in that as well. Yeah. And because I have gone through my thing, and it has given me a new lens, a different perspective, where it's still all very, very different. So I don't, often share my experience or anything because that's my experiences.
Right.
But it's, but what I can share is things that I've learned, like the somatic, how to get rid of things and why we hold things and where we hold things. And so everyone, like you and I, could witness exactly the same traumatic incident standing next to each other, but we'd have different reactions and different outcomes. We'd, be processing it differently. So everyone's different.
I love that you said that because, again, I'm speaking because I know my story and how I relate to people. So with my diagnosis of spinal muscular atrophy, I know a good handful of people that experience this life of ours very differently. And I think often we get stuck into this box of like, well, you have the same diagnosis, so all of these things will be the same. But no, we've all lived very different life. We've had different medical outcomes. We've had things that worked that didn't work for them. And I think one thing I've noticed is like that community of mine is one of my greatest connections because we can talk about it, what works, what doesn't work. And so in that we do a lot of learning, changing, trying. And I think um, working with you would help somebody find that same connection that you sometimes won't find with your best friend or a husband or a partner or anything, right? Because you had a similar experience, but not the same.
Yep, not the same. I've just, through my own experience, I've, like I said, a different lens, so I can got some strategies and things. But you said the word connection, which is so fundamentally important, because as humans, we all need connection.
Yeah.
We absolutely need that connection. And I lost all of that because suddenly I lost all my colleagues I used to work with and kind of my identity, and I see my dog barking. and my routines.
Right.
You know, me, I lost me. I lost, like I called it, the me I see. I lost the me I saw. So I'm a different
Right. Well, and I think like that is very, I think that might be one of the things that no matter who hears this podcast, I think we've all experienced that. I was an event planner for just over 10 years. And again, not a traumatic experience, but life handed me different cards and I needed to let that go. And just that's exactly like probably for the last couple of years, I felt like I don't know who I am without this. Like I lost my connections with people that were very valuable to me. And I didn't realize that until I started to talk about it a little more. Yeah.
So be with people that, like Brené Brown says, that because I used to be with people that blew my candle out. So I walked away. And recently, there's been happened very recently, actually. I thought, oh, these people are blowing out my candle. So I walked away proud, with dignity, and a bit of a broken heart, but and you're with people that light your candle.
I love that. And I think being one of the things you did mention in your like application was like you learn your capacity, or you have the capacity to learn to change, and that power of walking away. And that power of walking away, there's a lot of power in that. It is probably one of the hardest skills to do, but you, through sharing and talking, finding the right connections in your life, it really helps your mind, your brain, your heart, your soul realize when people are, like you said, blowing out your candle. And so that power almost comes to you a little easier. And then you see how much of a positive impact the power of walking away can give you. Do you have like any tips, suggestions for how people could connect to that?
I think it's got to be your decision. And sometimes that decision can take minutes. I'm walking away from it. It can be like the straw that broke the camel's back. It can be I'm done. Or it can take years and years and years in the making. And don't I do, I don't, backwards and forwards. So I think it's walking away with power and grace and dignity, and knowing that it is your whole being. It is the right thing to do. It's not just a knee-jerk reaction to something. And then afterwards you're like, oh, no. But
you didn't make the decision in like a moment of anger
or something. You made it mindfully and intentionally.
Yes.
There's a difference.
And I think it's like, it's okay. I think often we want to give people so many chances to do better, to be what we want them to be, but we can't change people. No. People have to want to change themselves. And so accepting that it's okay that you want to walk away is good. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have to be you don't have to look at it as a bad or negative thing.
No, it's positive, and it can be very scary as well. It's like people that come to me, it can be really scary. And again, acknowledge that, this is really scary. Acknowledge that. And just with love and grace. I have some people come and see me and they're like, I've been told I need to step out of my comfort zone. I'm like, why? It's a comfort zone for a reason. Why don't we expand your comfort zone? So when you're doing the scary things, the job interviews, the driving test, scary things.
Right.
You've got your inner and external resources to support you through that. So it's, instead of stepping out of your comfort zone, let's make your comfort zone bigger and get more resources in there for you.
That was good.
Although you're still can be nervous and a bit anxious and a bit of this, you've still got resources and
strategies.
I never call it a toolbox. People call it a toolbox. I call it strategies or a first aid kit, because it's first aid kit's more nurturing. Toolbox, people aren't broken. People might think they're broken. I felt broken, but I wasn't broken. You might feel it, but you're not. And usually I don't ever want to give the idea that you need a toolbox because you're broken. Although sometimes working with young kids, especially boys, being, this is them saying, I want to call it my toolkit because it's quite cool. And other kids, I want to call it my superpowers, which I
love that too. Yeah.
So it's their choice. It's giving them the choice of what they want to call it, their strategies.
That was so good. I've never heard anybody talk about it like that, but you're right. Like it's funny how words can have impact, right?
Absolutely.
I think for me, I never thought like a toolbox meant I was broken, but I could, now that you say that, I'm like, oh, that's exactly what it means. Like, you need tools to fix things that are broken. So that's...
But, some people say, I want it to rebuild. So I'm like, great, call it a toolkit. But I want them to call it their name.
Right.
It's all about empowering. It's all about empowering into using their language and things that help them. And talking about empowering, actually, because of what I've been through, I have done my own training developed my own training, which is coming out soon, actually, for equine facilitators on being trauma-informed.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, so I'll be delivering that in the next month or so. Because
and again, this is all things that have helped you to learn and to change and like just step into really who you are and help a lot of other people. I also just want to say I really love that message of not stepping out of your comfort zone, but expanding your comfort zone. I think that is very powerful because I think you're right. Why do I have to if this is where I'm comfortable? Right? But I think being able to get those, whether it's breathing techniques to help you deal with what you're feeling to make that comfort zone expand. I really love that. That was a good one. I'm going to keep that one with me for a long time now. So, was there anything that we missed that you wanted to make sure that listeners heard today?
I think also trauma hasn't defined me. Trauma hasn't defined me at all. It still is part of my life. But I notice that. I notice when I'm having more stressful days, and I notice instead of, oh, goodness me, it's just like, okay, what's going on for me right now? What am I needing?
Yeah, I love that because I agree. I agree with that in a slightly different way. Like, I think people for a long time thought I was a little bit crazy when I said this, but again, I've been in a wheelchair basically my entire life. And I always say to people, my wheelchair doesn't define me. I grew up knowing, obviously, I was in a wheelchair, but it never stopped me from doing anything. I might have tried some things and they didn't work out like I expected because of my wheelchair, but it has actually been something that has helped me develop as a person and be so confident in who I am. I don't feel like it has ever defined me in a negative way. And so I think that that's really whatever someone has gone through, that moment doesn't define you. So, I love that.
I'm bigger than what happened to me.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because it's what happened to me. It's not what I admit. It's horrible thing happened.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you for coming on today.
Thank you.
This was a good one. I'm going to have to, when I listen back, I'm going to be making some more notes because there's a lot of good little nuggets in this.
I'm going to go on for another hour. There's so much.
Where can people find you? How can they work with you? Best way to connect.
Okay. So I don't have a website yet, but that's up and coming. So you can find me on Facebook and Instagram under Alexandra Dunn Wellness. And you can DM me, or my email is pretty easy, alexandradunnwellness@gmail.com. Done with 2 N's. So alexandradunnwellness@gmail.com.
Awesome. I will make sure that we link all that on all the platforms so people can find you if you're called to.
And people can claim back for reflexology and counselling. And I'm also with the Be More Society. So if people are struggling financially to come to see me as a counsellor or equine, then they can see me through that charity called the Be More.
That's amazing. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I'll get maybe some information about that from you after, and we'll make sure it's linked so people can get access to it as well. So, thank you so much. Thank you for coming on and being so open and sharing your experience and all of the tips and tricks people can help should they feel called to. So
Thank you
thank you again. Have a
Thank
great
you.
day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to the Can You Even podcast. I hope you're walking away feeling inspired, empowered, and ready to tackle your own You Can moments. If you loved this episode, be sure to follow, rate, and review the show. It helps me reach more people who need a little extra You Can energy in their lives. And hey, if you have a story to share, I'd love to hear it. Head to itsmecandisse.com/podcast to apply to be a guest on the show. Until next time, remember, no matter what life throws your way, you can.